Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of Songwriting Simplified. I'm going to put my chair in just a little bit because we are covering Studio One 6.5. So normally it's just a songwriting show, but tonight we are going to take a look at some of the new features in Studio One 6.5 that are particularly aimed towards composing and arranging and songwriting. So we're going to take a look at those tonight. And it should be a lot of fun. And of course, I'm going to take all of your songwriting, composing, arranging, and music theory questions as per usual. Plus, I will expand this out a wee bit to take just general Studio One 6.5 questions as well. I'm happy to do that. Just kind of as a one-off because, Studio One 6.5 is brand newly released. And, I'd like to give you guys a chance to ask some questions about it. But that said, if you have questions about the biggest feature, i.e. Dolby Atmos, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate anything with Dolby Atmos. As explained in the video that I put out for an overview to Studio One 6.5, I can't record anything with Dolby Atmos. With OBS at the moment. I don't know why. I'm trying to figure that out. I've had some lengthy conversations with Rich Cresswell trying to get to the bottom of it. We think it's possibly something to do with a sample rate mismatch, and it's basically just crashing OBS. Basically, OBS just becomes completely unresponsive and won't record. So that would include this stream. So if I attempt to open my my demonstration song for Dolby Atmos, the stream will just go down, and we would have to restart it. So I don't really want to risk that particularly. So yes, so I won't really be able to talk about that, unfortunately. So I'm sorry about that. I will be spending some time over the course of the weekend and into next week trying to see if I can get a solution that would allow me to make a standalone video on Dolby Atmos and basically show you how the renderer that is now built into Studio One works and how to configure an Atmos mix and also a surround mix. I did a little bit on the surround option, where it's not Atmos specifically, it's just generic surround sound and using the surround panners. I could show you that, but again, kind of, I could have done it with some audio samples, but unfortunately you wouldn't have been able to hear it because OBS it does support other things like surround sound. It does support surround sound. However, YouTube does not currently support surround sound, and it certainly does not support Dolby Atmos as yet. I'm fairly confident that in the very foreseeable future that will change and YouTube will support surround formats and Dolby Atmos as well. Especially for those that do gaming videos, I think it would be incredibly immersive if they were to do that. But currently they don't, so it's very difficult to show anything to do with Dolby Atmos and surround, when essentially all you're going to be able to listen to it on is a stereo down mix. It won't have the same effect. And in fact, it might just collapse the mix altogether and you just won't hear things correctly. So pending those issues being resolved, just keep your eye out for my standalone Dolby Atmos video, which as soon as I've got my issues fixed, I will do. But yes, let's go and take a look at who is here. And as per usual, Billy Morgan was first in the door, followed by Dave at Bops NY. Who says, see you later, Atmos later in the show. That's a nice little pun there. I like it. Chris Marakner is here, and Mike Johnson is also here, which is cool. Ron Figura is here. Bobby Booth is here. Don Oliver is here. Gardner99 is here. And we got Kevin from Kevin's Guitar Stories. Dude, I hope you're feeling a wee bit better. I know you had to kind of cancel the show because you weren't feeling so good, but I hope you're feeling better, mate. Please do let us know how you're feeling. and wishing you all the very best, my friend. Let's see, where did I get up to? Steve Thompson is here, John Hathwaite is here, and DJ Vu is here, and Paul Morgan, and of course, the legend, the myth, the man himself, Mr. Jonny Gibe of Home Studio Trainer is here, which is awesome. Jonny, I'm very, very glad you're here. And that's it. That's it, I think. All right, so let's go see what we have here. We have a couple of questions already. But before I get to questions, I am going to take you through some of the score editor stuff that's been added, because I think this will be of value to you guys. Now, I did cover some of this in the video, but the beauty about doing a live stream like this is we can take our time over it a wee bit, and I can show you specific things. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go over to Studio One and get my webcam on. There we go. All right, sorry about that. I have a tickle right at the back of my throat. It's very, very irritating. All right, so the first thing you're going to notice is we have the chord track open at the top here. And now there is this very, very cool option. If I select our first track here, in this section here, this is called the track section. So you have symbols, track, and layout options. When you apply a staff preset, so for example, in this case, we have electric guitar, you'll see here that we have show chords. Now, when I untoggle this, the chords go away just for that particular part, because this is the one that is selected. Where are these chords coming from? They are coming from the chord track. So once I've shown you this, I will show you how you can make this happen. We will start something brand new, and I will input some chords and that kind of thing, and I'll show you how this works in a little bit more detail. We also have these. These are called rhythm slashes, and these are useful for writing guitar charts when particularly you are writing like a rhythm guitar chart, and basically you are giving the guitar player some chord symbols, and you're basically asking them, hey, you can just strum your guitar in a stylistically accurate manner. And that's what those rhythm slashes represent. It doesn't mean you have to play a down or an upstroke on each beat of the bar. It means, hey, just fill out this bar with something of your choice, but using these chord changes. And that's kind of how that works. Now, what you will notice, if you look at the tab here, is each of these slashes actually does have a note to it. So they do have an underlying pitch, but when you have rhythm slashes in the chart, they are muted, so you don't hear them. All right, so these single notes here are not going to play back because you don't want them to. You actually want the guitar player to do some strumming, right, at this point. So that's one thing. You'll notice that we now have these circles around the numbers for the fret numbers for the tablature here. Now, when you see a circle like this denotes that you're going to be playing a whole note. So this chord voicing needs to be played and held down for 4 beats. And then this one over here, you'll notice that it's kind of the same, but it's got this little stem sticking out at the bottom of it. And what that means is, in this case, because we're in 4 beats per bar, this means that we are going to hold this chord for 2 beats. And then you'll see we've got this number here with one single stem. And it's got a little dot after it. Let me zoom in so that you can see this a wee bit better. You'll see that there is a dot after it here. So this is kind of, we call this a dotted note. So basically it's a note that lasts 1 beat plus half of its value again. So it basically lasts 1.5 beats. And you'll see now that we've also got these bends as well. So this one is a full bend and a release back to original pitch. Now, these bends are for display only. So you can write these in, and you'll find these in the symbols section here. And this is where they are. They have their own little menu now. And if I click on the little flyout, you'll see that there are a load of these now. So you got pre-bend and string release, bend and string release, hold string, release, pre-bend, bend, whammy up and down, whammy bar down, whammy bar up, down and up, whammy bar vibrato, wide vibrato, normal vibrato. All right, so you've got all of these that are available to you. They don't have sound variations assigned to them, and the reason being is they are for display only. So you can write this into a chart like we have here, and then you can print this out and you can give this to a guitar player who knows what they're doing, like Kevin, for example, and he will know exactly what this means, and he'll be able to play what we've got written here. All right. So let's zoom back out just for a wee minute. And you'll notice at the end here, if I put the cursor at the end for these two measures here, if I just kind of scoot across just a little bit, you'll notice if I go back to track and if I turn off the circles, you'll notice that this chord voicing here is in brackets. Why is it in brackets? Well, look what we have here. We have a whole note, and then we've got these curved lines that appear to join these notes together. Now, in music notation, we call these ties, and they literally tie one note onto another. So how does that work? Well, if a whole note in 4/4 lasts 4 beats, we have another whole note that is tied to it. So that means we hold this chord down for 4 beats plus 4 more beats. And that is why in the tablature here, you have these brackets, because basically it means you don't need to play this voicing again because it is tied from the previous bar. So this will now last for 4 beats plus 4 more beats. Okay, so that's what the little brackets thing means there. And so if I put circles back in, we know that this means basically these are whole notes. Okay, so they are going to last 4 beats in a bar of 4/4. So the other thing to note here is we've got an option that says show stems, and that's what these lines are here. These are really handy, and I'm going to show you in a fresh part in just a minute why this is handy. This is handy because this means that when you've got notes in tablature, so let's say I was to change this to just the tablature view, and if I scoot myself back a wee bit, if I was just to show this just in tablature view, and let's hide the other 2 parts. There we go. So we are literally just looking at this one part now in isolation. We can see that we've got these numbers. But if I take off the stems, what the hell just happened there? That's not meant to happen. Hang on. How the dickens did that happen? I'm not sure why we've now got these massive ties. What the hell? Okay, that's just a little bit weird. Let's put these back in. Now that's plain weird. Okay, I think we might have just discovered a little glitch here. I'm hoping this is just a graphical glitch and not a bug. But even if it is, I can report this tomorrow. It's not a big deal. But what I was trying to show you is that when you take the show stems off, the guitar player who is just reading the tablature has no idea how long these numbers are meant to be held for. So that's why we have the stems. Now, if I was to create, let's close this, another part. So let's go grab in another part. We'll do another guitar part. And this time we'll make it a nylon guitar. Just, why the heck not? Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to mute everything else. And we are going to double click here. And what I should have done is I should have moved this to the start. That would have been sensible. Because that's where I want it. I want it to start here with everything else. And I won't make it as long as everything else. I'll just make it this long. Okay, so we are now in this particular part, and it has no track preset. We want a guitar. So we want to go guitars, and we want to go classical guitar. Now this does give us the tablature as well as the score view, which would be consistent for a classical guitar player. And I'm going to show you how you can change the tunings of your strings in just a second, because that's another new feature that we have here. So if I was to just simply enter some notes like this, okay, and we'll leave it like that. Now, let's go back over to the pointer. Now, we notice we've got all of these numbers for the tab. But the guitar player has no idea, unless he knows the note values, he has no idea how long each of these fret numbers should be held for. And that's where the stems comes in handy. So you'll see that all of these are set to be eighth notes, which is what these are here. But one thing I have just noticed is that these are not joined like these ones are. I wonder why that is. So I wonder if there is something I can do about that. Let's go and select these two. Is there an option to put to join these together? It does not look like it. Does not look like you can. That's interesting, because you can certainly do that in Notion. Okay, so this must just be a just something that's just not complete yet. But essentially, these are eighth notes. We know these are eighth notes because they have the stems, but they also have the little hooks. So if I was to, let's say, just delete this one here. And delete that one there. And let's say we replace one of these with a rest. Now, you'll see that these are the same. They've got the little hook. So that tells us these are single eighth notes. Remember, when we're talking about rhythm, we're talking about taking a cake, like a whole note, you whack it in half, and you get two halves, half notes. Whack it again, you get quarter notes. And then you keep dividing up the cake into eighths, 16ths, 32nds, 64th, and so on and so on. So in music notation, what that means is an eighth note gets one little hook. But then if you make this a 16th note, you get two little hooks. And then a 32nd note will get three little hooks. A 64th note will get four little hooks. And so on and so forth. So you keep on adding a hook to represent a shorter and shorter note. So that's why this tablature here has a little hook on it. All right. So that's why the stems are really important, because without the stems there, your guitar player is going to go, unless he reads these note values here, he or she is not going to know how long these should last for. So that's why those are handy. And then again, we can have the chord track in here as well. So let's actually create a brand new song, and we will get the chords coming into a fresh part, so you can actually see this in action. So we'll go new song, and we just do standard new song like normal. I'm going to grab presence in here again. Let's make this a piano this time. So we're not going to show the tablature because you don't have tablature in piano music. And then we can just expand this out. So we've got 4 bars. And then we can go to here. And again, you go track, you go apply track preset, and then this time you go keyboards, and then we select piano. And now we get what we call a grand staff with the little curly bracket here. And that means the treble hand is going to be the treble part is played by the right hand, the bass part is played by the left hand on the piano. All right. So what we want to do is we want to get, let's say we're just writing a chord chart for a piano player. So we're basically saying, hey, you can play your own voicings of these chords. You can play your own rhythm. So what we want to do is we want to first of all select some measures. So let's just fill all of this with rhythm slashes. So we go action, fill with rhythm slashes, doink. And now we've got rhythm slashes right across the top here. So let's go up here and we'll get the chord track open. And now I can start to fill this out. So we'll go C, we'll make this one F, we'll make this third one A minor. So C, F, A minor, and we'll make this a half bar chord. We'll make this one D minor, and then we'll double tap in here, and we'll make this one G7, and then this one will be C. But we'll go to town on this because we like to end with a nice chord. So we'll go C major 7, and no, with a 13 and a sharp 11. Why the heck not? Actually, let's put those in a different order. There we go. All right, so now we've got our chords. We can click on the show chords, and there they are. There's all our chords from the chord track. So it's as simple as once you've got your chords in the chord track here, you can just simply check this little box here, and it's not going to play anything because there's like I said, these rhythm slashes, they do have an underlying pitch, but they are muted, so you don't hear them because you don't want to hear them. In Notion Mobile, this is a little bit different. Okay, I will quickly show you this in Notion Mobile just because it is just a little bit different, and you might find that there's an experience here that that you might find different. So if I just go piano chords, and I'm not really showing you guys Notion Mobile much, but let's go select piano. We'll do that. We'll do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to zoom this in a wee bit so everybody can see what we're doing. And again, I'm going to select just these 4 measures here, and I'm going to click on the triple dots here, and I'm going to go tools, fill rhythm slashes, and bingo, we've got some rhythm slashes. Now click on the tools grid here, and we click on C7 because this is our chord tool, and we just drop it on there, and then we've got this nice little chord selector, which is it's quite similar to the one that you see in Studio One, and happy with that. So I'm going to drop another one in here, and we'll make this F, then we'll make this one here, we'll make this one A minor 7, and we'll make this one G major. So we'll make that G7, sharp 11, 13. There we go. All right, so we're happy with these chords. Now, the cool thing is, if I show you this is very cool. So in Notion Mobile, we actually have playback for these rhythm slashes. The voicing sound a little bit strange, but check this out. Okay, so a little bit similar, a little bit different. Let's go back to the home page. Now, the cool thing about this is, even though I didn't hit save. There is no save button in Notion Mobile, but as soon as I open it up, it opens right back up. It kind of dynamically saves in Notion Mobile. Let's close out of that. So we've got our rhythm slashes here, and it doesn't play back. That's kind of, you know, one of the distinctive differences. All right, so that is a little whistle stop tour of the new additions to the score editor. So having the chord track available on any track that uses MIDI, obviously, because the score editor doesn't use audio, it uses MIDI data. So any instrument doesn't have to be presence. This could be My Time, Mojito, could be Impact, could be Rowdy, it could be anything that you want. So long as it uses MIDI, you can access the score editor here, select your track preset and apply it so that you've got the right kind of thing going on. So if it's a tenor saxophone, make sure you select tenor saxophone so it's got the correct transposition. So when you give it to your tenor sax player, they're going to be playing it in the key that is correct for the tenor sax, and out comes the sound that is in the same key as you. That's how transposing works in one little sentence. But you will be giving them the chord track just the same as you would for a guitar player or a piano player. All right, so I hope that was indeed helpful. Bobby Rusi says, seemed to me that if there are 8 notes in a measure, that they would be 8th notes. No, that is correct. If there are 8 of those notes in a measure, then yes, they would be 8th notes. But because the time signature tells us to play 4 quarter notes in a bar, that's the pulse of the song. Basically, when we say 4/4, we're saying 4 quarter notes in a bar. So what I showed you in that other song where you had those 8th notes with the little hooks in the tab, but they were also joined in the notation, those were 8th notes. And you were absolutely right, Bobby. There are 8 of those if you have 4 quarter notes in a bar. You will see 8 8th notes. You will see 16 16th notes. You'll see 32 32nd notes in 4/4. Different time signatures, you'll have different amounts of those note values. So, for example, 7/8, you will have 7/8 notes in a measure, and so on and so forth. So you'll have 14 16th notes in a 7/8 measure, and so on and so forth. You know, it's all fractions, it's all divisions. If you're good at fractions and you're good at subdivisions, you will have this whole notation thing down. Trust me. All right, let's go and look and see what questions we have, because I didn't want to take too much time doing that little demo in the score editor. Gardner's99 has a question. He says, how to configure a surround sound on a 192 in Studio One. Here's the thing. You can ostensibly set up a surround sound mix, but you will, if you are going to use Atmos, for example, the thing with Atmos is there are 2 sample rates that you can set it up in, 48 kilohertz or 96. Those are the only 2 sample rates that are in the Dolby Atmos specification. That's nothing to do with us. We have not arbitrarily limited that. That is the specification for Dolby Atmos. And also, you will find that your device block size is also limited to 512. Even if you change it, it will flip back to 512. Why? Because that is the Dolby Atmos specification. That's what your device block size has to be to use the Dolby Atmos renderer. It won't work in any other configuration. That's just the way that the Dolby Atmos specification was designed by Dolby. Okay, they designed it that way, and so we have implemented it according to their specification. So, with the Studio 192, you have a good number of outputs for speakers. So you could have a small speaker array if you have enough speakers to do it. So look at the number of outputs that you have available on your interface and see if you can connect speakers up. You can use headphones. in the Atmos configuration. So if you use the Atmos setup rather than surround setup, then with the Atmos renderer, you can select headphones. You don't have to have binaural headphones. You can just have a regular pair of headphones like these. These are the PreSonus HD9s, and I've been using these with the Atmos renderer, and they work just fine. You do get to hear all of the sound going around this way and around this way and around this way and around this way. You get you do get the complete immersive Atmos experience. It's just you're using headphones. So there is what the renderer does is the renderer applies some very clever mathematics to basically deceive your brain into thinking that sound is over here when it really isn't. So it's simulating where a speaker would be positioned, or up here, or up here. It's simulating where the speakers would be positioned in, say, a 9.1.6 array. If you have that set as the bed, then when you're listening on these headphones, the Dolby Atmos renderer will simulate where those speakers would be positioned in the real world if you had them. All right, so that's what the Dolby Atmos renderer does when you have the headphone binaural setting set in the Atmos renderer. So you can use regular headphones. You don't have to get expensive binaural headphones. You don't have to have, 7 or 9 or 12 or 14 speakers to use Atmos. A lot of people have this misconception that by PreSonus implementing Atmos, they have basically just given a feature that is just the exclusive purview of a small select bunch of people who have got the wherewithal financially and a room big enough to fill a room with a whole bunch of speakers that are high-end speakers like the Eris Pro 6 speaker line, for example. No, that's not the case. If you look at kind of the implementation of Atmos in Pro Tools and in Cubase, Nuendo, and Logic, you can use headphones. You absolutely can mix in headphones. And actually, there's a very strong argument to suggest that you should. Why? Because most people who are the end consumers at the end of the day, they're not going to have that speaker array either. So they are going to be listening on Apple earbuds, maybe the binaural ones that were released a few years ago, or they'll be using headphones, just regular headphones or regular earbuds. And if they're listening through the Atmos renderer in Apple Music, for example, then your Atmos mix that you have done in your room on your headphones, they will hear what you heard in your mix. They will hear that as the output in, for example, Apple Music on their earbuds. So there's a very strong argument to suggest that you should mix on headphones in Dolby Atmos, because that's what the end consumer is going to, by and large, be listening on. Now, yes, you can get the speaker array if you've got the money and you've got a room big enough to be able to mount speakers on your wall and on your ceiling. Go ahead, absolutely do that, and I would encourage you to do so. Get the sub, get the speakers in a line in front of you, get the speakers to the sides of you, get the speakers above you, left and right, get the speakers on the floor pointing up at you as well, so that you get the entire immersive Atmos experience when you're mixing, and park yourself in the center of that speaker array. You can totally do that. If you've got the money to do it, go for it. Get yourself an interface that has enough outputs to be able to manage that, and then go for it. If you don't, use the Dolby Atmos renderer and use a pair of headphones, because it will still work. I have these plugged into the PreSonus monitor station. PreSonus monitor station is just a regular monitor station. It predates all of this Atmos stuff. I have the Studio 1824C. Again, it predates all the Atmos stuff. So I'm just using essentially the stereo output of the 1824C going into the monitor station, which goes into these headphones. But because it's going through the Atmos renderer, it's basically down mixing the, you get that immersive Atmos experience. So you don't need the big speaker array. You just need a decent pair of headphones and a good quality interface, and set the bed correctly and use the Atmos headphone binaural renderer, and you're good to go. It sounds really complicated, and yes, there is some relatively complicated technical writing and documentation out there on Dolby Atmos, and the best way to get started with setting it up, the best way to get started, beginning to mix in Atmos. For a lot of people, it's going to be brand new. They've never done it before. And just like mixing in stereo, when you're first learning to mix in stereo, your mixes suck. They do. They're not going to be very good. Mine weren't. My first mixes in stereo were terrible. I had phase cancellation all over the place. And, if I collapsed it to mono, bits of my mix would just disappear. But I pushed through that, and I learned. And I learned how to check my mixes in mono so that I wouldn't get that. Or, I even did started doing a large proportion of my mix in mono, so that I knew that if I collapsed, if I collapsed my stereo output to mono, or I put the mix on in the bedroom and I sat myself in here, that naturally collapses a stereo mix in another room to mono. By the time it's bounced off of everything else and it's got to your ears, it's mono anyway. So you're only going to hear a collapsed mix into mono. If the mix is good, you're still going to hear all the elements. So it is with Atmos. It's going to take you some time to get going with it, and to get into using surround delay effects, surround reverbs with the new Open Air version 2. And, the new surround delay plugin that we've got. So it's going to take a while. Now, is Atmos for everybody? No, I don't think it is. Am I likely to be mixing in Atmos? Probably not. But I've learned a little bit of how to do it. And let me tell you, my Atmos mixes I did whilst I was testing this stuff are terrible. I'm not going to publish them anywhere because they are freaking awful. But that's because I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I will do. I will get there. John Haythwaite says, the one question I had about Atmos/surround was, can you automate the 3D panning position to have things moving around? Yes, pretty much in exactly the same way that you can automate stereo panning, you can automate surround panning as well. So it's all completely automatable. And you can, like for example, you can use the surround delay and you can set the different taps of the delay to be, a certain percentage loud and exactly where you want to place them. You can place them in a completely customized rig and pattern for your delay. You could have it, completely arbitrary, or you could have it completely natural sounding where, you'd have a tap here, therefore you'd have the opposite tap over here, and so on and so forth. So, because that's how reflections work in real life. But you might not want to do that. You might want to tap something that goes like this, or tap something that goes like this, or tap something that goes, and forms, your favorite little configuration. You can do that. Billy says, be careful, send kick, bass, etc. to LLE. Yes, definitely do that. We got 21 people here, I think. I think that's what we had just a few minutes ago. Actually, no. We've got... How many have we got in here? We've got 35 people in here right now. We are one away from the record, folks. That's amazing. So that means we've got a whole bunch of new people in here. All you folks that are brand new in here, please hit the subscribe button, give it 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes, and then you'll be able to contribute in the chat and you'll be able to ask questions. And I would totally take your questions. We've got 20 minutes left. I am happy to extend the show a wee bit if we get a lot of questions. Totally. But thank you so much, everybody. All I need is 2 more people. Somebody go and grab 2 more people and get them in here so that we can break my flipping record. No, actually, what am I talking about? That record is for my Sunday night show. The record for Songwriting Simplified is 25, and we have smashed that because we've got flipping 35 people in here right now. That's mental. That record is trashed. Awesome. Kevin says, thank you, my friend. I had a nice long talk and a good friend today. There you go. And I'm glad you're on the mend. That's good to read. Thank you. All right. I did see that we had some new people. George, my good friend, George Pinto is here, which is great. Thank you for coming, George. Right, I'm going to just pop back up because there's a whole bunch of questions in here I don't want to miss. And of course, my faithful sponsor, Alps Media LLC, my good friend Louis is here as well. Louis, I'm glad you're here, buddy. Welcome. Bobby says, okay, I've read that one. Okay, so I'm just catching up here. Just Bob says, might have missed this via videos and today. I had heard that Dolby Atmos will represent the surround sound experience in headphones. Is this true? Yes. The Dolby Atmos renderer has a binaural headphone option in the render. You can select that option, and as I was just saying just a minute ago, you can use these guys. Regular PreSonus HD9s or HD7s or whatever it is you want to use. And they will work for you. In fact, he just goes, never mind, you've answered the question. There we go, good. Semoj Engineering says, hello to everybody. I'm surprised. Linux started to be considered as with the beta stage, so maybe Melodyne coming to an Atmos Door project. You're all are a rocket. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I will pass that on to my colleagues at PreSonus Software. But yes. That's the other big news, is the Studio One 6.5 is now supported on Linux. It is in public beta right now. So you have to have a very specific version of Ubuntu on your Linux machine. And I cannot remember what that is, but I did say what it was in my video. So please go check out my 6.5 overview video, and you'll get the information on that there. It's towards the end of the video that I said that. But yeah, definitely go check that out. If you have a Linux machine and you're running Ubuntu particular version, I can't remember what it is, then yeah, you can start getting started with that. Whether Melodyne will be available in the Linux build of Studio One, don't know. That's got to be something that probably has to be worked out with Celemony, because that's their product. And I don't know how ARA is going to work in Linux. I haven't got a clue. But yeah, it is brand spanking new, early days for Linux, and it is in public beta, so it will be, I'm pretty sure that there will be features added to it as it goes forward. All I want to do is 5.1, says Gardner99. You can certainly do that. You can use the surround option rather than Atmos, and you'll be good to go. Someone says, if I don't get Cuba Disco, a local brand model of headphones, we'll get the HD7s for the future. Yeah, and you know what? The HD7s are actually quite cheap. They are very inexpensive, but they're actually pretty darn good for what you get. They are pricing about the $40-50 bracket, and you think, they're going to be crap, aren't they? Because they're cheap. They're going to be crap. They're going to be really poorly made, and they're going to be hyped. No, they're not. They're actually pretty darn flat. And I have used them for mixing for years. When my kids were very small, when my kids were babies, couldn't have the speakers on. Had to use my HD7s. So that's what I mixed I mixed entire records on my HD7s, and you know what? My clients had no clue. They thought I was using my speakers, and they thought they thought that I had used very expensive speakers and all of that. No, I used my cheap $50 PreSonus HD7s. Turned out really good mixes. Let's see. Simod again says, it's really possible to do a pretty good Atmos mixing, mastering, respectable one, professional one with binaural and headphones, in your opinion. Yeah, you certainly can. And in fact, like I said, there are people in the industry who have been working with Dolby Atmos for a good while now, because it's been out for a few years. And so it has been that Dolby Atmos was the thing for, major label studios, because, they can afford to have the full speaker array and they can afford to have the I/O to support it. Well, you don't necessarily have to have that now, because Dolby have the renderer and it's built into Studio One. It's not an add-on. It's not a third-party plugin in that sense. It's actually the Dolby Atmos renderer built in directly into Studio One's audio engine for Atmos mixing. So it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool and pretty unique. On YouTube, there's a guy called Studio One Revealed, and he shows you how to set up Atmos. Yeah, he did a really, really good video on it. He was very, very thorough on setting it up. I would have been really thorough on setting up as well and being able to show you had I not had my problems with OBS. There we go, 36 people in the room. Thank you very much, everybody. That actually ties the record for either Sunday Night Live or Songwriting Simplified for most viewers. So thank you, everybody. A couple more people and this will be awesome. This will be really, really great. So for those of you that are new here, thank you. Welcome. Please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking what you're seeing here, hit the like button as well. Make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss anything, because I do a show on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Central. I also do a show which is specifically Studio One orientated on Sundays at the same time, called Sunday Night Live. Really simple, unimaginative name, because I sometimes lack imagination, especially when thinking of titles. So I just called it Sunday Night Live. And I've been running that show for nearly 7 years. I think I've maybe missed 3 weekends. I think I've maybe missed 3 Sundays out of, the last 6 years. So there's a lot of shows you can go and check out. We've done over 300 Sunday Night Lives. Songwriting Simplified was a show, it started out actually as a show that I did in partnership with Jonny, and we did that for several years. And now I host it here on my own, and it's working out pretty well. But that said, I miss my buddy Jonny. So from time to time, I'm going to be getting him back on the show. But this time I'm going to be kind of like the one in the driving seat, and he's going to be my co-pilot rather than the other way around, because that's how it was originally. He would be in the driving seat, he would be the host, and I would be the, the kind of special / expert guest. But now it's kind of, the shoes on the other feet, I suppose. So yes, when he's available on certain occasions, I'll bring him back. I'm sure you guys would love to see him back. Let's go see. Jonny says it's an awesome feature, but not something I'll use in the near future. Yeah, it is an awesome feature. I definitely agree. Whether I will, be doing much in the way of Atmos mixing or not is another thing entirely. I don't know. I really don't know at this point. Maybe I will record a couple of songs and mix and master them just in the whole surround experience. Maybe I'll do that just to see, how it turns out, because I've never done that before. Let's see, what else have I missed? Peter Brooks is here. Hello, Peter. Good to see you. 6.5 is very good at super wise. Yes, it is. It's very good indeed at that. That's for sure. Hey, chat just jumped. I love it when that happens. And I have to go back up. Where did it go to? I jumped massively. And I can't find where I got to. That's annoying. Oh, here we go. Just Bob says, with Atmos, does this mean you can mix and master, render to MP3, and it will work on any stereo with the headphone jack, and it will only be stereo through left and right speakers? Here's the thing that you will get. When you do the export, there is a spatial option, and you'll get a binaural mix file, and you'll also get a down mixed to stereo file as well. So you get two. You get two files. One which has all the binaural information in it, which includes all of the Atmos effects, and then you get a down mixed one to stereo as well. So I don't think MP3 supports Atmos. Not 100% sure about that. Worth doing a little bit of research to find that out. I personally don't know. But certainly what you get when you do an export is you will get a binaural WAV file and a down mixed to stereo WAV file as well when you do your export mix downs. When you're doing spatial, okay? Don Oliver says, will there be an update for Studio One Remote? There is an update for Studio One Remote. Studio One Remote 1.8 was launched at the same time as Studio One 6.5, and it does feature support for the spatial and Atmos mixing and stuff. So yes, it does. It does support it. Silly question: if I mix in Dolby Atmos and someone sits in their car, would it just collapse to stereo? Now here's the cool thing about cars. Older cars, they are just stereo. Some of the newer cars, they are beginning to be built in with a 5.1 surround option. So basically, speakers at the front, speakers at the back, and bass ports in the boot of the car or the trunk of the car, and you know, that kind of thing, and you know, at the front and the floor, that kind of stuff. So you get a bit more of a surround immersive experience in some of the newer cars, but in older vehicles, definitely it probably will be down mixed to stereo. So keep that in mind. Excuse me, burpy me. Gardner99 says, just keep what you're doing. Just keep doing what you do. You do it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say so. Right, let's go see. Semod says, if one day I come back to Debian, Arch, or Manjaro, possible to work, or Ubuntu only about Linux? At the moment, it's Ubuntu. I don't know about anything else. That's about the limit of my knowledge with Linux. However, if you go to forums.presonus.com and you go to the Studio One section of the forum, you will see that there is a Studio One Linux forum there. And you can go there, and there's some information about Linux there. In fact, there's a post that our forum administrator put up that links to a knowledge base article that talks about Linux and all the things to do with that. So please go and check that out. Billy says, demo headphone setup, please. I can't. As I've explained, I can't demonstrate Atmos because the stream will just die. It will shut down because OBS freezes, and at this point there's nothing I can do about that. So I'm sorry, I can't do that. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, Johnny, yeah, I miss you too, buddy. And I will get you back in this show. Whenever you want to come back on the show, just let me know. Let me know when you're available. And we'll Skype you in. Let's see. Garden99 says, is Studio One the recording standard and recording now? Yeah, probably. I would say that Studio One is in a position now where it can kick considerable buttocks to Avid and Apple and Steinberg, probably quite a bit. I mean, they've had Atmos options for a wee while. They kind of got there ahead of us, but I think our implementation of it is probably the most logical and the most sensible, and maybe even the most user-friendly to actually get started with. I certainly found it quite. I mean, at first when I saw the Dolby Atmos render, I was a little bit intimidated for maybe about 2 or 3 minutes until I started playing with it. Literally just playing with it, just trying things out and seeing what happens. And just purely being experimental and saying, hey, what happens if I put this plug in here and do this, and this? How is it going to sound in my headphones? And I just experimented and played around with it. And there is a tutorial that is available when you go into the new song menu. I can show you this because this will not crash Studio One. It won't crash OBS, I mean. We'll be fine with this. I can show you this at least. So if you go into the new song menu and you go into templates, you go into mix in surround, okay? And then when you go into there it is. There's the tutorial. You can download and install this guy, and it will teach you everything you need to do to set up your Dolby Atmos configuration, including the audio device and how to export an ADM file, which is basically the file that you export that is your full Atmos file. So yeah. Download this guy, install it, and get started with it. But here are your Atmos configuration options, your bed format, your monitoring format. You can set to any of these options here. But notice the sample rate settings that I was talking about earlier, 48K or 96 only. And that's to do with the specification for Dolby Atmos. Nothing actually to do with us. It's not an arbitrary limitation that we set. It's just what it is. Now, you'll find with the surround, this is generic surround. So your output format can be whatever setup you want. So if you want to do 5:1, then there you go. You just select this guy. And then your sample rate, you've got 41, 48, 88, 96, 176, and 192. That's what is available on my interface. Your interface may vary. But these are the options that I have with my Studio 1824C. And then you just click on OK, and away you go. Let's see, what else do I have here? Let's see. Do you open renderer under song tab? No, when you go into let me do that again. When you go to Dolby Atmos and you hit on OK, the renderer instantiates immediately, instantly. You don't have to do anything else. It's just there because it's essential. You need the renderer for working with Dolby Atmos. So it just appears. Okay? You don't have to open anything special. You don't have to drag a plugin in. It's there. It's just built in directly into the mixer. Okay? So you'll see it. I'm not going to, if I hit OK, it will kill the stream. So I'm not going to do that. Just Bob says you have a pop filter, but you need a flailing hand screen. Yes, I think I probably do. Atmos reminds me of a nice pipe organ in a nice cathedral with pipes all around. Yeah, it really, you know what? That would be a really good test of Atmos, actually, with with using the new reverb, or it's not a new reverb, Open Air version 2, where you can have a nice immersive surround reverb experience, which pretty much puts you in the center of that cathedral, if that's what you want. So yeah, that is definitely an option that is definitely worth experimenting with. Good grief, we have 38 people in here. We have broken the record. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. We've got 27 likes. If we could match likes for viewers, that would be outstanding. If we could get 38 likes as well as 38 views, you guys would make me an extremely happy Scotsman. Which, of course, is going to be a blessing for everybody. If I'm happy, then the whole world is going to be happy. Oh, man. Turashiva says, I had a blast playing around with Dolby. You know what? So did I. And I'm really, really annoyed that I can't show it to you. It's so frustrating. But as soon as I hit OK, it will freeze OBS and the stream will just drop and you'll not see a thing. So I'm really sorry about that. But Turashiva, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for coming. And to everybody else who is here, who has watched and is currently watching, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who has been watching and has also subscribed and hit the like button. We're nearly there. We've got 31 versus 37, 38. So if we could get that to the same, that would be awesome. So that would be really, really great. That would really bless my socks off. And I have a compression sock. I have a compression stocking because I have a blood disorder, which unfortunately is incurable, but it means I have to wear compression stockings, but just on the one leg. So I wear one sock at the moment. But yes, if we could get the likes up to parity with viewers, that would bless my compression sock off. For sure. But yes, please do stay tuned, because as soon as I figure out this issue with OBS and I can actually record something with Dolby Atmos, even if it's experimental with Dolby Atmos for OBS, I will definitely make a video. Okay, even if it is just purely experimental, just to see if it's gonna work, I'll do it. But for right now, I can't do it because for whatever reason, OBS just stops. It doesn't pass audio. It doesn't do anything. If I hit record, it doesn't record. If I hit stream, it doesn't stream. We get nothing being sent up and nothing received either by the encoder. So, I don't know why. I was working with Rich Cresswell over this a wee bit the other night, and we both think that there may be some kind of sample rate thing going on, which I tested. I tried having OBS set to 48 to go with Studio One being set at 48 and having my interface universal control set to 48, but it still wouldn't work. I was still getting OBS freezing. So I'm wondering if maybe there's something in the Windows sound control settings that I am overlooking that I need to go and change to match so that everything is the same. So I will need to go and check that out. And as soon as I've got it checked out, you will see a video. I will make a video and I'll get it up there. Even if it is a wee bit shit and a wee bit experimental, at least you'll get to see it in action. And at least I will be able to satisfy myself by saying I have actually put out a Dolby Atmos video. At least one. So that's what I want to do. So I will try and do that as best I can. So please be patient. Please, hang in there, check the channel regular. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you've got all notifications selected in that notification bell so that when I do publish that video, you see it. You get a notification and you can just click on it and go straight to it. All right. If there's going to be an after show, hopefully Mike Johnson, he said he's going to post his link shortly. Please get that in here before we shut down the show, Mike. And everybody is welcome to pile over to Mike's Zoom room for more discussion and more chat. And it gives me a chance to unwind and actually drink my tea, which I made before the start of the show and I've not touched. So I would like to drink that. And even better to drink that in your presence. So thank you, everybody. I really, really appreciate your company and I appreciate your questions. They have been absolutely brilliant, awesome questions. Appreciate it. And I will see you on Sunday for Sunday Night Live, 6 p.m. Central Time. Be there or be amusingly shaped. Good night, everybody.